writing a poem to...
Hi, my name is Emily Gilman Beezley. I'm a working artist here at the Jersey Shore. I have a studio here in Manasquan, and I'm very happy to be featured in this artist spotlight. So thank you so much. My story began as a child. I was always the artist in the family. I remember one of my very first gifts was a set of magic markers, and they were scented. So if you remember back then, brown was root beer and purple was grape. And I was so delighted with that. I kept drawing. I kept using my magic markers. Eventually, that led me to the Art Honors Program at IS 145, where I grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens. And then from there, the High School of Art and Design, I actually majored in costume design, and that you might hear a little bit more about that later when I talk about one of my newest series of mixed media paintings. Formerly, I did train at the High School of Art and Design, at Colgate University, at the École des Beaux-Arts in Dijon, France, Parsons School of Design, and classes at the Art Students League in Manhattan. I, however, was not, I would say, brave enough to pursue being a full-time artist. So I actually studied computer science, and that led to a career working in technology, mostly focused on financial services here in the Metro New York area. That's really how I supported myself for many years, along with my family. In 2018, I finally made the decision to pursue art full-time. So it was really kind of a scary time for me. It felt a little bit like jumping off a cliff and not having an income and not having benefits. I should say my children were fairly grown by then, but still going to college. So that was an expense that my husband and I were dealing with. My husband actually lost his job in 2008. So I've been the primary breadwinner in the family. So it was just one of those pivotal moments where I felt like I just couldn't not do my art anymore. It just felt like it was so important to me to pursue my passion and my dream. So along with that, we did move down here to the Jersey Shore, which is a little bit of a lower cost area to live in, believe it or not. I mean, I know all of New Jersey is super expensive, but it was definitely a downside for us. And so now here I am. So this is my studio. I've got some of my pieces around here. My art is primarily art that I just feel inspired to create. So I don't have, I would say, a particular recognizable style, although people do say they always recognize my work. So maybe that's all in my head. I don't know. It's something about my colors or just the way that I use my outlines. So a lot of my inspirations come from travel. I've been fortunate to be able to travel quite a bit. I take some photo references, but then I also just depict what the feeling I have about those places. So I do have some examples here that I can share with you. Another series that I did has to do with dance. So I studied dance pretty much my whole life. I still dance for fun. And then when my daughter started taking ballet at a young age, it really inspired me to do a dress rehearsal series of oil painting. So that's something that is much more of a figurative style of art, where I wouldn't say it's photorealistic, but I'm trying to capture really the mood and the lighting of the young dancers and their expressions, their enthusiasm, maybe a little bit of their trepidation about going on stage. And typically ballet mistresses can be a little bit tough even on young dancers. So that was really what I was trying to capture in that series. I do a lot of now ocean and shore-inspired artwork, including some that have to do with just the issues with rising sea level. So I do have a series about that talks about large epic waves really pounding and hitting the coastline. So that's another collection that I've been able to create. I do some printmaking, mostly monotypes, and often I add color to those. So I would say I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I do want to show you some of my work. So I'd love to share with you this piece. It's an oil painting. I call it Beneficence. So it is one of my ocean-inspired artworks. I do have a passion for the ocean. I actually am an avid body surfer. And so here I have an oil painting. It's 24 inches high by 36 inches wide. And it's really all about the calming effect of the ocean with this lovely, you could say, sunset or perhaps sunrise sky, and then the waves coming in, and really a very soothing palette. So this is Beneficence, and it was inspired by our ocean. So this is Morning Mist. And you can see how it's really somewhat abstract, but definitely representational. It was inspired by a trip I took last fall to Tuscany. And if you've ever been there, you know that there's these beautiful rolling hills with a lot of greens. And then early in the morning, where the mist or the fog is trapped between the distant peaks. So this is what I've captured here. Again, done in these soothing colors. It is 30 inches high by 24 inches wide. Okay, so I call this the sands of time. There's almost like an hourglass effect here if you look at this image. And it's really an homage to where I live right now. So I live at the Jersey Shore in a town called Manasquan. And there's a Manasquan River with an inlet that I depicted here that goes into the bay, and then the Manasquan River continues. So this would be the Manasquan side with the beach and the water. And then this would be Point Pleasant, which is the adjacent town. This is an oil painting, and it's really an artwork that uses a sort of almost mosaic technique. So I've done a bunch of mosaics as well. I love just that tactile ability to place tiles, and then I usually overlay that with some type of a resin, so it becomes more of an art piece. So that was what I used here in terms of the patterning, and they really represent the little bungalows that are here at the shore. Now they're not so little, right? After Sandy, they're all, 2-3 stories high. But in my youth, this is, the image that I really do have. So you've got a little bit of a stylized wave effect, the sand, the water coming through, a lot of movement and flow to this piece. And because it is oil, oil is a process, right? You start with the underpainting, and then you keep adding more and more layers, and then it takes quite a bit of time to dry, sometimes up to 6 months before you can really add varnish to a painting. So this one definitely did evolve. I did a number of paintings that are inspired by this particular geography, and this one I call the Sands of Time. So this is Ocean at Dawn. The thing that I really like about this, I love this burnt orange, but I really love this little pop of sea green. I just think it really adds so much personality to this oil painting. And again, you can see a lot of what I use with these demarcations. I think some of it is really just a technique that I've acquired from the printmaking that I do. And it's almost the stained glass effect here. So you can see with these very dark black lines, the different, areas here. So it is representational. To me, it's definitely an ocean. You've got some spatter here. One of my favorite way to apply paint is actually using a toothbrush. So if, I would be outside and I'd have my toothbrush and I'd be flicking, and then you get all these like little spatter effects. So, you don't always have to buy a very expensive paintbrush. Sometimes you can just use what's at hand. And then I also use the toothbrush even to do some of these types of blending lines. So it's actually the image that I used for the installation that I have currently at the Point Pleasant train station. So you'll see that this same image is wrapped around the electrical box, except that it's much bigger, and I had to expand the proportions to meet the requirement for the installation.
Attention, New Jersey Transit customers. New Jersey Transit Mass. All customers be alert and aware of your surroundings.
So we're here at the Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey Transit rail station, and I'm so happy to be able to show you my artwork that was installed here last fall. So here we have this panoramic view that I call the Ocean Speaks, and it's one of my oceans at different times of the day. I've used that same technique with the toothbrush, and I've been able to capture these interesting lines that give you a lot of movement underneath the soft sky. So the original painting was smaller. It was 24 by 36 inches, but I worked with a local printer to create a giclée that was able to be expanded with enough resolution to be able to capture this beautiful image. And working with New Jersey Transit and the local police department, we actually had to make a modification. And so you see these plexiglass panels on the bottom. That's actually for safety purposes. So originally the panoramic artwork was going to wrap around all the way from top to bottom. As it is what it is. So this is the Ocean Speaks. And then you'll be able to see, I have two other pieces installed here. One is view from the jetty, and it's the view from the jetty on the Point Pleasant side looking south. Now, the original artwork was the view from Manasquan looking north. So once I had the image copied, I actually flipped it. So then I had to modify a little bit compositionally, but that was all able to be done. And that's the other image that I have on the platform shelters. So the way that the platform shelters work is I've got one image on the inside and then the alternate image on the outside. And then it's reversed on the other side of the platform. So that way, wherever you are, you're seeing the two different images. So come on down to the shore, Point Pleasant Beach, especially in the summer, and you'll be able to see my artwork installed here. Let me know what you think. Thanks. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about my printmaking. So I have an example of that here. It's called Wind. So I'm a big fan of monotypes in particular. A monotype is a form of printmaking, and the way that it works is you start with a metal plate. You apply etching ink, which is typically black, onto the metal plate. You manipulate it, and so the way that you would do that would be to either use brushes, you could use cardboard, you could use your fingers, you could use any type of implement that would help you to manipulate the black etching ink. Sometimes even solvent is used, which would be like an alcohol-based or turpentine-based product. Once you have the image the way that you would like it, then you need to hand pull it through a printing press. So there's a special type of printmaking paper that you would use. Usually you would wet it first. You would lay it over the plate, leaving some edges, which is called a beveled edge. And then once you hand pull it through the printmaking press, you now have the image in reverse on the paper. So this is a technique that I use quite a bit, but I've been experimenting with that lately. And so what I've been doing is I'll take this underlying black and white image and then overlay it with color. So let me give you an example of that. So this is part of my Road Less Traveled series. So you can see that it's a underlying monotype, but then on top of that, I've added pastel and watercolor. And so what's interesting about that is that etching ink is an oil-based media, and then watercolor and pastel typically are water-based media. So they don't actually blend, they kind of pool and create these interesting textures. And that's something that I've been really enjoying. So let me share with you 2 more in this series, because you can see they get a little bit more and more abstract as I go along. This is the Road Less Traveled, the second one that I pulled. So again, very similar subject matter, but you can see a little bit more of this almost abstract effect where the spatters that are created by this water media sitting on top of an oil-based media. And again, that's something that I really enjoy. And then this is Road Less Traveled 3. So probably the most abstract. Again, you get those grungy blacks that are coming from the etching ink. And then you have these interesting spatter effects that come from the water media. All right, so here's an example of one of my travel inspirations. It's called Cliffhanger, and it's from a trip to the Grand Canyon, which, if you've been able to see the Grand Canyon, is just incredible. But I really love this sort of twisted, gnarly tree that I snapped a photo about. And then the rest is really just enjoying these dark outlines. That is really something that I've been also promoting in my artwork, this idea of these edges, not the soft edges that you might think about with a lot of the Impressionists, but I think it's because of my printmaking background. I just love these, demarcations. There's a lot of personality in that tree, so that was what I was trying to capture. Here is Garden Jubilee. And it was inspired by a visit to a botanical garden. And it's just really an explosion of color and organic forms. Sometimes I see flowers or plants and I just really feel compelled to paint them. So if anybody out there knows what this particular plant is, I'd love to know, because I really don't know. But this one is just all about color and form and just that feeling of nature and the beauty of nature. So I mentioned that I have a dance background, and then when my daughter started dancing at a young age, it really inspired me to create this whole dress rehearsal series of figurative oil paintings where I'm really capturing the expressions of the young girls. This one is called Monet's Garden, and the reason for that is the actual performance that these young girls were doing was based on Monet's Giverny. And so the costumes are meant to represent the beautiful flowers. But to me, it's more about the beautiful flowers are really the young girls here. So I call it Monet's Garden. And you can see that these are not posed dancers. These are dancers that are on stage, all different expressions and postures. Again, the bright, vibrant colors. And that's something that I've been really enjoying. This is called the dress rehearsal. And it's actually the first in the series of oil paintings that I did on this theme. So you see the young girls, they're sitting in an auditorium, and there's just this feeling of anticipation that you can see. Some are a little bit more confident than others. Maybe some are nervous. And that's really what I was trying to capture. So you can see that the light is really important for this. And then I really have made a specialty of depicting layers of tulle, which are used into these tutus. So if you look at my website under the category of the dress rehearsal, you'll see a lot more of these figurative oil paintings that I really enjoy. All right, so this is my epic studio reflection. It's a large oil on canvas. I want to say 3 feet by 4 feet. And you're actually looking at the dancers through the mirror that is typically in a ballet studio. So they tend to be in panels, and you can see the different panels delineated here with the ballet bar across, and even the outlet, which is frankly one of my favorite parts of this oil painting. But what was really fascinating to me is it's almost like a puzzle, because when you look at the mirrors and they're not set exactly flush to the wall, you get some very interesting effects. So in some cases, the dancers are truncated. You can see that on the far left, where they're actually getting cut off. And then in other cases, they're actually getting duplicated, which you can see very well in this area here, that the young dancers and even this, I guess it's a radiator or something behind there. So again, a lot of it's about the expressions of the young dancers. They're not particularly posed. They're there, they're anticipating, maybe they're a little bit nervous. So this is studio reflection. It did take me quite a while to paint this because there was just a lot of thought involved. And I should say that when I use reference photos, I don't tend to just use the photo. I tend to mix and match from different references. So I might pull, in this case, a figure from a different time and place, and then just position that figure into this painting if I feel that that's what I need to do. So just wanted to explain that. And then I do take some liberties, obviously edit out what might be in the room. If there was a chair and I didn't like it, then I would edit that out as an example. So I'm not looking to just exactly display and portray what I've captured. So just wanted to explain that. So this is Studio Reflection. And I think it was my last of this series, but now I'm kind of working on a couple of other ones. So, there might be some more is what I'm saying. So, yeah. So being a working artist, people sometimes think that I'm in the studio just painting all day long, and then like magic, that's how my business is run. And it's really not the case. I would say that I spend as much time not painting in pursuit of my art business as I do painting. And what I mean by that is that I spend a ton of time on sales and marketing. So I send regular emails. I am on social media. I do videos of the art that I'm creating. I am constantly publishing content with the goal of having eyes on my art, with ultimately a client that would be interested in acquiring my art. So how does that work? I do have a website. It's a professional website on a platform that is specifically created for artists. And I am in charge of uploading all of my images onto that website, all of the alternate images. So you would see maybe not just the front of the painting, but how it looks in an actual staged room. What is the back? What is the corner? What is the signature like? So that's a whole nother aspect, just photographing and capturing work for publication. I also spend quite a bit of time, believe it or not, answering RFQs and RFPs. So if you're not familiar with those acronyms, RFQ is a request for a quote, and RFP is a request for a project. And so a lot of the larger commissions, particularly if it's for public art, are run through either an RFQ to RFP process or an RFP process. So examples of that are the New Jersey Transit Arts Commission that I was awarded last year to create art for the Point Pleasant rail station. That was art that was fabricated on vinyl to wrap the platform shelters as well as the electrical box. And so as part of that proposal, once I was shortlisted, I actually had to create an entire project plan with a budget, a timeline. I had to present that to a panel who were going to make the ultimate selection. So there's a little bit more entailed with creating some of these larger commissioned projects. Another example that recently occurred is that now my artwork is included at the new Terminal A of Newark Airport for the Art of New Jersey 2024. And what that entailed is providing a digital representation of the artwork that was selected in exactly the format that they required. So I do spend quite a bit of time on Photoshop type technology to make sure that all of the images that I am submitting for various opportunities are correct. And then if I do actually win an opportunity, just again, to make sure that the process goes smoothly. It is my brand, so I always want my projects to be on time and on budget. I know that sounds like corporate America, but that is my background. And that's really important as an artist. I know a lot of people think artists are a little bit loosey-goosey and, can't do a budget and don't pay taxes. That's not really the case. A couple of other projects that I'm really proud of. I did work with Arts Bergen and on a couple of projects last year. One was a live painting event that took place in New Milford, New Jersey. It was part of a night festival, and the bench that I painted incorporated a lot of native fish and marine life. And then it was ultimately installed at Hardcastle Pond in New Milford. So it's there now. And then another event that I took place, that I participated in, was in Hackensack. So it was an initiative to really build awareness for flood-prone areas. And so myself and 9 other artists were commissioned to paint rain barrels. They're, these big water cisterns. So I did a Field of Dreams rain barrel, which had native plants and then all the pollinators. So I had, butterflies and hummingbirds and bumblebees. And that was a really interesting project for me because I had to really learn how to prepare a surface that I'm not used to. So typically I paint on canvas or sometimes on paper, material that's pretty intuitive for an artist. But this was like a big rubber, think of it again like a garbage can. So I had to figure out how to prime it and then how I could adhere the paint to that surface. So that was a really fun project. They kept the rain barrels in Hackensack in a park for about, 6 weeks. And then they actually raffled them off for free to people who were interested in having those rain barrels. So that was a really fun project as well. So another aspect of being a working artist is packaging and shipping. And you might not think, again, that that's a big deal. But if you do have fragile material that you're shipping to possibly the other side of the country, it does take quite a bit of time to actually ensure that that artwork is going to arrive safely. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the other aspects to my business, which are more about the prints. So typically I sell my artwork as originals, but often if I think that they could represent well as a print, I'll make that available as well. So that entails, again, a really strong photograph of the actual original artwork that can be reproduced. So I can show you a few examples of that. So here's an example of a print on paper. This is called Red Poppies and Goldenrod. All right, so this is actually the same image on wood. And it just gives you a little bit of the grain behind the image. So it's sort of like a fun way to present. I'm going to show you on metal. So here's another example. Again, super popular. People seem to find this very modern. They all come wired for hanging. So then you don't need to worry about framing. And then it just sits a little bit off the wall with this 3/4 inch float. Here it is on acrylic. Again, this is probably the most high gloss. So if you have if you have an area like, let's say, a bathroom or someplace where there's a lot of moisture, this is a great way to be able to display your artwork. And this one comes with a French cleat system. So again, this is Red Poppies and Goldenrod on acrylic. And then here it is on canvas. So again, these come in all different sizes. Canvas, in this case, it actually has this gallery wrap in black. So it almost acts as if it's a frame, but you can also have different options for colors. You can mirror the image, which means it continues all around the edges. So lots of different options. So just wanted to share with you all that this is just another aspect of my art business. And all right, guys, so this is the yoga mat that I used. I've had it for a couple of years. It's still in great shape. It's got this rubber backing. So this I call Marsh Meditation. So it's kind of a nod to yoga with the meditation. But this is something that is fairly unique. And if you go to the gym, I know I get a lot of compliments. The good news is you'll always remember where your yoga mat is. And if you go to a gym like mine, you won't have to worry about who actually used the mat before you if you're borrowing one. Here's another example. This is called Scarlet Firethorn. So I know a lot of you are artists out there and you're wondering, can I make this into a career? And I really don't have a lot of guidance around that. I was too scared to go right out of college and be a full-time artist. But if that's your passion, I encourage you to do it. I feel like in this day and age, there's more and more opportunities for art. But don't think it's easy. Don't think that perhaps a gallery will find you and all of a sudden you'll be a star in the art world. Doesn't always happen like that. I almost think of it a little bit like sports. A lot of people who are very good at sports at a young age, they'd love to make that their career and pursue that and maybe get into the major leagues or professional leagues. And a lot of them just don't make it. So the art world is a little bit cutthroat. There's a lot of challenges depending on where you're coming from, where you live. Luckily here in New Jersey, we're very close to Manhattan where there's a huge art scene. So that's already a plus in your direction. But definitely go to a good art school. It does matter. A lot of people might need to pursue a BFA or even a master's in art. And be true to yourself. There's a lot of direction now towards artivism, but if that's not your cup of tea and you want to be representational like an old master, then I would encourage you to do it. Find a good teacher that can help you and go to the museums and sit there and, make copies and do what really is in your heart, because then you can't go wrong. So everyone, again, I'm Emily Gilman Beezley. I'd love to stay in touch. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. If you have any suggestions for me, always eager to hear what you have to say. So you can find me. My website is a mouthful, emilygilmanbeezley.com. And you can find me on Instagram at egilmanart. That's EGILMAN art. And I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I believe I'm on Threads and Twitter. You can find me in a number of different ways. So I'd love for you to sign up for my newsletter so we can keep in touch and you can always hear what I'm up to. And you can do that best from my website. Again, EmilyGilmanBeezley.com.